Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 32 has just been released, and this is the point of no return. With everything that we have seen, the build up from chapters to chapter, and now we are at the moment of no return. Cause what we do end up seeing in this chapter will change everything for a long period of the Boruto series. So, without further ado, let's jump into the chapter, because what Ikimoto and Kijimoto cooked up this chapter is absolutely peak. So I already knew this chapter was going to be different when I saw Damon's cover, because Damon looks absolutely terrifying. A lot of people compared him to Chucky in my comment section, which is absolutely hilarious, but looking at Damon, he actually scares me in this image. He looks purely evil. If I showed this to anybody who doesn't watch the Boruto series at all, and they were to ask me, is this guy a good guy or a bad guy, they would absolutely say that this guy is terrifying. They'd say he's a villain. But thankfully, Damon is on our side. The title for this cover is Dancing with Demons. The subtext is Ida becomes bait to lure Mamushi. How will the decision play out? And this is basically where we start off. What I do like about this chapter is that we see other ninjas that are incorporated in the story. They are on standby watching Mamushi and everything that he is doing. Sai has instructed them not to touch them at all due to the plan that Shikamaru now has, as what they're going to be doing, just as entailed, is that they're going to be luring Mamushi towards Ada. And this is Boruto's job. Boruto is the guy who's going to be luring Mamushi towards the designated location, as Boruto goes to Mamushi himself and tells him that he will tell him where Ada is. And since Mamushi has around 200 clones at this point in the story and is pretty much dumb, it makes quite a bit of sense for him to not really question anything that Boruto is saying. He just wants to follow Boruto's instruction due to his lack of intelligence and intense desire to mate Ada. Thus, he doesn't question Boruto at all and simply follows him. We see the rest of the Mamushi clones do the same thing. And since they don't have to communicate to each other at all, it does give credence to what Amado is about to tell us. Amado has theorized that the Mamushi clones have a shared consciousness, where they don't necessarily have to communicate with one another to know what intel one person has. And this works a bit like with the Shadow Clone, while the experience of the Shadow Clone is given back to the original user when the jutsu is deactivated. However, in this case, we have the Mamushi clones that don't have to deactivate this jutsu, but it is immediately relayed to every single Mamushi clone. And due to the fact that there isn't really an original Mamushi clone, it gives credence to the fact that all of them share in this same pool of consciousness. And that's why when they split up, their intelligence ends up dropping, because they're splitting up the same pool of resources, being intellect and consciousness. It makes quite a bit of sense that they get dumber and dumber as things progress. So Amado gives us a more logical way of viewing Mamushi's ability and how information is relayed to each and every one of the Mamushi clones. But this is when we really see the sheer number of Mamushi clones, and I really love to see that Mamushi can fly. This is an Otsutsuki ability. It is just due to the fact that Code, using his karma, which has Otsutsuki chakra, mixed it alongside the Ten Tails. So obviously the divine trees that we have here are able to fly too. But this was a point where I saw it in the leaks and it didn't really make much sense to me. We had Boruto who was basically telling the Mamushi clones to target Damon. And at first I was like, yo, Boruto is setting up Damon, but this makes perfect sense. The reason why Boruto wants the Mamushi clones to focus on Damon so hard, it is Damon Glaze, but it is because Damon is that strong, where Damon can defend himself. Boruto believes that there is nothing that the Mamushi clones can do that Damon cannot reflect, cannot deal with. So it is best that he makes the Mamushi clones target Damon instead of Ida. And that's where we really get the glaze from Damon. And this is really merited because it just showcases how Damon is so strong that Boruto can basically tell all the Mamushi clones, 200 of them, to target Damon, and he doesn't fear that it would cause Damon to lose. What is really being showcased that a loss here would not be Damon being killed, because it simply wouldn't happen, but it would be Damon not being able to protect his sister, who the Mamushi clones are targeting. So Boruto, by telling the Mamushi clones to target Damon, is trying to minimize that, because because he believes in Damon's power and knows just how strong this kid is, and that's why he calls him a demon-like bastard. We do end up getting some very intriguing information, and it is the fact that Mamushi has intel on Damon due to the simple fact of this trauma that Damon gave him in the past. And this ends up alluding to the fact that Mamushi has access to Bug's memories and traumas and instincts. Everything that Bug probably feared in the past, Mamushi has a bit of that feeling. This was made really clear in the arc where we had Matsuri and Konohamaru. The fact that Moegi loved Konohamaru, it was transferred on to Matsuri, and that's why she felt so strong emotions for Konohamaru. But when it comes to Bug, it's quite funny because we are basically told in this chapter that the reason why Bug is missing some teeth is because of Damon. And that tells us that likely in the past, Bug may have tried to attack Damon, and Damon, either intentionally or not being aware, he ended up reflecting Bug's attack, and Bug ended up losing his teeth, which is why Mamushi has this intense trauma, these memories from Bug of how exactly Damon's ability ends up working, which is why he knows it instinctually. This is a pretty cool, I really like the way Ikimoto expands a bit the lore when it comes to Bug, and the fact that yeah, bro, I thought it was just due to old age or the dude not taking care of his teeth. The only person I really saw end up brushing their teeth was Ida. I didn't see Bug do that at all, and he's been there for a while, so I don't really think he was brushing his teeth. So I thought that was the reason why he lost his teeth, but no, Damon was that reason, causing an instinctual fear of Damon's abilities from Mamushi. And now, as Boruto is leading the Mamushi clones to the desired location, we have Kawaki, Sarada, Delta, Team 10, and Mitsuki who are going to this specific location. We'd also come to figure out that Konohamaru is also joining in this battle. Let's see what he does, right? But we see a bunch of Mamushi clones flying with Boruto. They are flying towards Ada. They see Ada and they literally get so excited that they start to hurt each other. They start fighting each other to see who is going to be the first one to end up devouring her. We see multiple of the Mamushi clones who are going through this simplistic pattern that we have already been told that the dumber they get, the more they follow quite simplistic patterns, and that's why we see them bunched up all together. Ada is flying away, but she can't really fly as fast as the Mamushi clones, and Mamushi ends up grabbing her leg. And then we end up seeing that Damon reflects that ability. And since the intent is not directed towards Damon, but instead towards his sister, the Mamushi clones first have to touch her before he's able to reflect that ability. But this is a little bit of a weakness and a drawback of Damon's ability when it comes to protecting somebody else, due to that intent not being targeted towards them. Ada's getting caught up, so they end up going down near the floor, where we have Damon who literally starts to demolish each and every one of the Mamushi clones. Just by the art, we can clearly see that Ikimoto is telling us that the force that Damon is using on them is disintegrating them and atomizing them at each and every single blow. With literally one kick, Damon ends up destroying 3 of the Mamushi clones' head in a row with just one singular kick, and we see that the Mamushi clones are getting agitated due to the simple fact that there are multiple clones and Damon is simply just that fast. He is capable of jumping on their backs and using the Mamushi clones to end up reflecting their abilities. The Mamushi clones just go towards Ada, but Damon, due to his sheer speed, is able to catch up to them and kill them. Mamushi clones keep running, and the main target is simply Ada, and Damon is trying to get their attention so that they can simply fight against him. However, all he really has to do is touch somebody, and that intent that they had towards Ada is simply reflected. And Damon, all by himself, in less than 1 minute, as we have Inogen explain, he tells us that Damon was able to deal with half of them all by himself, which showcases just how strong Damon is, as we really haven't seen any character be able to deal with the Mamushi clones at such a fast rate. Due to that being the case, we have Boruto that joins in the fight. We see Mitsuki too. He's using his snake arms. He basically alley-oops it in the air for Kawaki to take them out. Kawaki, I really like this panel right here. This gives me Vegeta vibes when he is using the Big Bang attack. This is something that my Dragon Ball fans would instantly be able to recognize, and we can clearly see the inspiration when it comes to Ikimoto. These panels are sublime. Really love the art in this chapter. Really like the fight that multiple people are fighting. We see Himawari in her Nine-Tail state, who is dealing with the Mamushi clones too. She ends up hitting one of them, and we see that slowly and maturely 70, 60, 40, and then we have 50. And prior to that, Shikamaru and Sarada had a conversation, which entailed how much of the Mamushi clones could she deal with one single swoop of the Orihime. And that was 50. She said she could deal with 50 of the Mamushi clones. And when we reach that 50 mark, we have Sarada who is prepared to use her ability. And everything seems to be going just a little too perfect. The mission seemed like it was going to be successful. However, mission failed. It seems like Sarada's ability is not working, as instead of the Mamushi clones end up being atomized like we saw before, we see that Sarada's head is tilting in a way that we haven't seen before. And then she starts to fall. Boruto is very scared at everything that is going on as he rushes towards Sarada to protect her, screaming Sarada and showing quite a bit of emotions and fear due to what has taken place. Kawaki is asking what is going on, with Shikamaru asking the same thing, but Boruto tells us that she has gone out of consciousness. She blacked out. We have the Mamushi clones that continue to split to a large number, and they keep on splitting over and over again. And this is where we really come to see the consequences of multiple actions, the consequences truly of Kashin Koji's actions. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, Sarada is so weak, everything is happening because of her, she overestimated her abilities. There definitely is some sort of truth in there. However, the real person to blame is Kashin Koji. If Kashin Koji never stopped the transmission, Shikamaru would have instructed Sarada to do differently, because at that specific time, Sarada had no idea of the final plan of Shikamaru, which was to utilize her Mangekyo Sharingan Orihime. And Sarada doesn't have any information about the Mangekyo Sharingan. She doesn't know that it causes so much damage to her vision, because most of the information regarding the Mangekyo Sharingan is not something that is accessible to the public. We know that Sarada didn't really know that she awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan, so she couldn't have asked her mother, thus she doesn't really know about the drawbacks of the Mangekyo Sharingan. While Sasuke, on the other hand, he was guided by people like Obito, but yet he was extremely reckless with his usage of the Mangekyo Sharingan, so I don't really think we should blame Sarada in this case. The person truly to blame is Kashin Koji, because if he never told Inogen to stop the transmission, we wouldn't be in this scenario, as Sarada would have most likely not used the Mangekyo Sharingan. But usually when one thing goes bad, everything goes bad, as we now also have Kawaki, who was trying to help out Sarada in this case. However, he has used too much power, and now we see the consequence of the way in which Kawaki goes about gaining power. He tried to push his body to the limit and gain power in a way that is very reckless, and now his body is taking the damage. Where we have Sume, who lets us know that his body is overheating, and a model that tells Kawaki that he needs to get out of there as quick as possible. And we have Mamushi clone that brings him to the ground. Kawaki obviously doesn't have his karma, so he must have felt this. Delta is trying to help her out, but Delta simply doesn't have the range of attack necessary to deal with clones. She is able to damage one of the clones, but there are just too many clones that keep on spawning. Just too many of them keep coming over and over again. Konohamaru is trying to help and see exactly what is taking place, as we now see that Sarada is not waking up still at this time. Ada is sweating. We can literally see that things are not going wrong. Everybody is sweating. We see Delta sweating too, and Damon looks concerned as Ada says that everything is looking bad, and Konohamaru is asking Boruto if she's okay, and Boruto says that he doesn't know. Everything is looking pretty concerning right now at this stage, and we have Inogen that reveals the worst news possible. They have reached about 8,000 clones, and they keep on increasing. And this is due to the fact that Everything that occurred with Damon's ability, everybody helping out, and Mamushi almost being defeated at that moment, it scared Mamushi quite intensely, where he says that his instincts are now telling him that he basically has to do everything to stay alive, and now he's going to increase to a near infinite amount, where there's most likely going to be a clone that is just gonna keep on multiplying over and over and over again. So now to everybody who says that Mamushi is weak, please, you guys owe me an apology, because I've been telling you guys this ability is broken. Look how many people have been utilized for just one singular character. Now imagine if Mamushi came with another Senju member. This would have been even more impossible due to the fact that we have somebody who can infinitely clone and another strong Senju character. So you guys please stop underestimating Mamushi, as he really is that guy. As he really is terrifying. Although ugly, he is really handling these guys, as this was really a battle of attrition. Everything that we've seen, it was slowly foreshadowed that they have been using too much chakra to deal with the Mamushi clones. So Mamushi's strategy, although he is so dumb right now, it still ended up working. The subtext to end this chapter off is, the remaining Mamushi turned the situation precarious. How will Boruto and the others defeat an overwhelming amount of clones? At this current moment, we have Boruto, Himawari, Konohamaru, Delta, Ida, and Damon. How are they going to be able to deal with over 1,000 Mamushi clones? And they keep on increasing. Kashin Koji is the final page, and this is your fault, Kashin Koji. All of this is your fault, but you guys already know Kashin Koji, there's something about him. I've been telling you guys this. There's something about Kashin Koji that we really don't know. But this chapter is absolutely peak. Really love what we see, the inclusion of multiple different characters. Payoffs that we've wanted to see for quite some time. People were saying, oh, this arc is going to be terrible, simply due to build-up chapters that were absolutely necessary, and we see the payoff at this moment. Kawaki, Sarada, all these powers have consequences. People are not just OP in this series for no reason, and I'm happy to see that being the case. How will Sarada deal with these consequences, and how will Kawaki too? This is going to be something that we'll have to see in the chapters to come. I would rate this chapter at 8.5, very close to a 9. I believe that the next chapters are just going to keep getting better and better, so I'll save those higher ratings for those chapters, but I'm really impressed with what you are seeing. Let me know your own personal rating in the comment section below. It's been your boy Dynasty, and I'm out, bruh.